Chris Cuomo has been asking for years. You've done more on this topic than a lot of people on television right now. This is so overdue.
Yeah, there's no question about it. I mean, there are very few things where the same people who are doing it are saying it's wrong. I mean, it really is kind of appalling that nobody has wanted to set the standard here, and they're just all doing what they're allowed to do. And I got to tell you, I don't know that Speaker Johnson is going to pull the trigger.
Really?
He kind of did what the president did on tax increases for the rich. Hey, I'm open to it, but, you know, a lot of people don't like it, and, you know, they're going to kill me if I do it. That's what Johnson did on this. I'm in favor of banning the stock trading, but, you know, a lot of members basically have to have two homes, and I'm sympathetic to that, and I understand. I'm not sympathetic to it. Either you're into public service, and the word service is like serve us, or you're not.
Yeah.
They're not crying poverty. I don't want to hear it.
Yeah, there are strict laws against insider trading, and what these congressmen are doing
Not
is
there.
that, you know, they are hearing things
and I mean, the timing.
in briefing hearings, committee hearings. You can look at their stock trades right after the committee hearing before it becomes public. It's provable in so many cases.
It's a layup, and it will do what Congress needs most. I wish there was such an easy fix for the media. Because it will show people that they care.
Yeah.
And that they get it, and they're going to do better.
It's
a layup, and I'm going to fight for it right now.
Good luck. Fight the good fight. Chris Cuomo, it's all yours. Happy Wednesday.
Thank you. Appreciate it, Elizabeth. Chris Cuomo here. Welcome to NewsNation, where right and left come to be reasonable. My brothers and sisters, let's get after it. We're having a moment. Enough of us have been squawking about Congress, squawking about Trump, making money in office, and I get why it smells bad. The crypto stuff smells bad. The gentleman's club, his son-in-law, all that stuff smells bad. But Congress smells bad too. They're doing the same thing by trading stocks. Check out Unusual Whales. Check out Quiver Quantitative. There are too many doing too well with the timing being too suspicious, and everyone agrees. A recent poll found that nearly 9 in 10 Democrats and 9 in 10 Republicans and 8 in 10 independents. I don't know where my independents are in this. Why aren't you guys 10 out of 10? Anyway, all those huge margins all favor banning members of Congress from trading stocks. What's messed up is that even those who seem to be taking advantage know that what they're doing isn't right. Even Trump agrees. Democratic leader Hakeem Jeffries agrees. And today, yes, Speaker Mike Johnson, for the first time, talk about potentially backing a ban. But the way he said it, to me, is proof of this perfidy, this lack of faith to code and honor that has to die in our public service. Listen.
You want me to tell you my honest opinion on it? I mean, I'm in favor of that because I don't think we should have any appearance of impropriety here. The counter argument is, and I have some sympathy, look, at least let them engage in some stock trading so that they can continue to, take care of their family. Look, we have no tolerance for anything even resembling insider trading or any of this kind of advantage that anybody could take. Zero tolerance for it, and we'll stamp it out ourselves. So that's why I'm in favor of the policy, but I understand people that have misgivings about that, so we'll see where it lands.
Lead or don't? What do you mean you see where it lands? And you see the guy behind him? I mean, he's like, the spirit animal of what we're talking about, looking down his nose at Johnson. We'll see where it lands. You are where it lands. You're the speaker. Look, I get him being sympathetic. I also love him saying, you want my honest opinion. No, do what you usually do and twist it. Listen, I get that Johnson's sympathetic. It's very Christian of him. I'm just not feeling it. Public service is a choice. It's not about making money. And if money is your priority, get the hell out and make it. Most senators and members of Congress make more than double the median household income in this country. And I know that's not great money, okay? But you're not supposed to be doing it for the money. And I'll tell you what, if you paid them less, maybe they wouldn't stay so long. Maybe they'd be more willing to have term limits. And by the way, they get reimbursed up to like $34,000 a year for their expenses in D.C. Public service, as in serve us, not yourselves. And besides, this isn't about members of Congress being able to provide for their families, put food on the table. They've made millions in the stock market. often with really suspiciously timed trades. It's such a messed up situation that even the politicians who support banning stock trading in Congress still trade stocks. One of them is running for governor of New Jersey, member of Congress Jared Moskowitz. He's one of the problem solvers. He was asked today on CNN about buying tens of thousands of dollars worth of stock 2 days before Trump paused his Liberation Day tariffs. Interesting. No, I don't get it. Not understood. I don't believe the guy bought the dip, by the way. If you look at the chart, that's not the most compelling thing. But here's the problem. Here's the problem. It's the smell test. If you're explaining, you're losing. And if you need to explain that, look, I didn't know anything and I didn't do anything, then what you were doing doesn't pass the smell test. And the idea that until the speaker brings it to the floor, he won't bring it to the floor. So you're just not going to change your conduct until you have to. That's leadership. The answer is unacceptable. And I think Jared knows that, which is probably why he declined my offer to come on. Moskowitz supports banning stock trading in Congress. Great. Start by not doing it. Okay? Trust is in the toilet. This is a great way to show the majority that elected officials get what passes a smell test. And the stock thing fails. And Trump's crypto exploits and constant cashing in looks terrible. I mean, he's in the Middle East right now, right? He's got these business developments there with the same guys he's meeting with. The same guys who gave his son-in-law, Jared Kushner, billions with a B for a private equity fund as soon as he got out of office. The guy isn't even known for private equity. It doesn't pass the smell test. It's not right. We all know it. And the idea that, trading or trading on your office is not illegal, so I'm going to do it, well, then make it illegal, because it should be. Johnson has the power to bring a vote to ban stock trading on the floor. There are multiple bills already introduced. There's a bipartisan trust act. You got Representative Tim Burchett's bill. Today, Republican Mark Alford introduced a companion bill to Senator Josh Hawley's Pelosi Act. Pelosi, all right, let me say it the right way. Pelosi's husband has done great in the market, sometimes with companies that were relevant to congressional action, okay? Nancy Pelosi says she doesn't trade stock. She has nothing to do with it. She doesn't know what her husband does. You believe what you want. Democrats should get on board, get a vote, and get this done. Let's bring in two members of Congress, one from each side of the aisle, and they are literally together tonight, and I love it. Democrat Ro Khanna of California, Republican Mike Lawler of New York. And I do have to say, Lawler does not pop on Quiver Quantitative or on Unusual Whales. You do, Ro Khanna. You're top 30. Let's talk about this quickly, about the chance that it actually gets done and why it needs to. Mike, I'll start with you because you've obviously been conscientious about it already.
Look, I fundamentally believe we are all elected to serve for however long that our constituents choose to have us here. I do believe in term limits, but I also believe in banning stock trading. The fact is, this is a service. The focus should be on doing the job, serving your constituents, and not making money while in this capacity. If you want to make money, as you said at the top of the show, then go do that. Leave, and that's fine. But the fact is that this is a serious job that actually provides you with a great deal of information, especially when you're talking about the stock market, businesses, tax policy, energy policy, et cetera. And ultimately, I think it's imperative for all of us to, at the very minimum, ensure that people have trust in the system, that the appearance of impropriety is not there, and that the actual impropriety is not there. And so that is why I co-sponsored that legislation last Congress and this Congress, and believe it should come to the floor for a vote.
Hey, Ro, do you think you guys can get it done? Or do you think this sympathy for you guys having to have, a redundant lifestyle is going to keep this from passing? Or do you think there's enough public energy behind it now?
I think there's enough energy. It's something that I completely agree with Representative Lawler. And look, I don't trade stocks. My wife doesn't trade stocks. She inherited money and she put it in a trust. It's a diversified trust. The Trust Act simply says ban stock trading. And if you have wealth, as she did, you put it in a diversified trust that eliminates conflicts. That's what people do in the oversight hearing, in the executive branch. And you still be transparent of what's there, but then people know that it's actually in a diversified trust and it's not you calling up a financial advisor. So I think the Trust Act in particular is very well crafted, and just let's get a vote on that.
First of all, I love you guys standing next to each other, by the way. I love it. California and New York, Republican and Democrat. I know it's not a big deal to you guys. It is such a big deal to my audience. I got to tell you, it's the #1 thing people like about my show. I'm just telling you, thank you for doing it. I appreciate it. You'd be shocked how many of the brothers and sisters won't do it, by the way. All right, now let's talk about something that doesn't make as much sense. I want to play Tom Suozzi. He's from New York, like Lawler. He's out on Long Island. He's back in Congress. And he was trying to prove that the Republicans aren't doing what the president said they would do in the budget bill. I want to play what he did, and then I want you, Mike, to talk to me about whether or not it's a gotcha. And Ro, what do you think the reality is going to be with the budget bill on this point? Play Suozzi's clip.
The president has said, your tips will be 100% yours. Does this tax bill continue the payroll tax on people's tips?
Yes, it does, Mr.
Overtime. The president said your overtime will be tax-free. Does this bill continue the payroll tax on overtime?
It does not exempt overtime from the payroll tax.
The president has said he's going to remove taxes on Social Security. Does this bill remove taxes on Social Security benefits?
The legislation provides an increased exemption amount.
But does it remove taxes on Social Security benefits as promised by the president?
Does not change.
Now, there's a yeah but on all this stuff, but Mike, it's not the clean kill that we were told it was going to be. Are you okay with that?
Well, first of all, just on the issue of Social Security, legally it cannot be adjusted in reconciliation. But on the issue of no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, obviously the tax code is extremely complex, and how things are dealt with within the tax code varies based on the instance that you're dealing with. Ultimately, the objective is to provide people with a tax benefit here and make sure that they are not getting taxed on tips or overtime. That would be through over 4 years in the bill. You look at the issue that I'm most closely fighting on right now is salt and lifting the cap on salt. Obviously, people pay their state and local taxes up front, and we're trying to accrue a benefit on the back end to make sure that they're not being double taxed on their federal income tax return. The layers here obviously are complex, but I think the president's agenda and what he is trying to accomplish and the promises that he made ring true in terms of how they are being addressed within the general framework of this tax bill, though there's still some work to do.
Ro, what's your take on what the promise was, what the delivery is, and what the space is for Democrats to do better?
Look, I have a pretty simple take on things. If the president's doing something that I think is going to help the American people, I support it. And where he's doing things that aren't going to help, I oppose it. On the effort of trying to get rid of taxes on tips and taxes on overtime, that's a good idea. And yeah, you can't do the whole thing, fine, but make some progress on it. In fact, today I introduced a bill basically codifying his executive order to require Americans to pay less on prescription drugs, as little as people pay in other countries. I thought that was a great idea. I'm the person who's trying to codify it. I'm hoping other Republicans will join in, and we've had constructive conversations. Where I vehemently disagree is on the Medicaid cuts. I mean, it's a $600 billion cut, and we can get back and forth on what that cut is, but that is really going to hurt hospitals and services. Don't take my word for it. All I say to folks is please read Josh Hawley's op-ed in the New York Times. You'll take his word for it.
So just
Mike,
to that end.
Go ahead. I want to talk about that. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, so just to that end, to the point that I've made repeatedly throughout this process, I will not support cuts to eligible beneficiaries in any way. And so as we have worked through this, I and others have been able to fight back against any effort to lower the FMAP floor, enact per capita caps, enact block grants, dish cuts, or any major changes that would directly impact eligible recipients. However, that doesn't mean that there aren't problems with the program. Over the next 10 years, we're talking about spending $86 trillion. In this budget reconciliation bill, we're talking about $1.5 trillion in savings. That's 1.7% of the total spend. So when you talk about some of the changes to Medicaid, number one, eligibility requirements, making sure that people are not staying on the program that are no longer eligible, speeding it up from an annual basis to a semi-annual basis. Number two, citizenship verification, making sure that illegal immigrants are not collecting Medicaid benefits. In New York, $1.2 billion are being spent on this. Number three, work requirements, making sure that able-bodied adults on the expansion population who do not have dependent children are trying to work a total of 80 hours a month. Whether it's work, whether it's going to school, whether it's volunteering, some level of engagement to receive a benefit. Medicaid is a means-tested program. It is not meant to be there for life. Unless you really need it, if you're in the IDD community, seniors, children, single mothers, but that is the traditional Medicaid population. We're talking about the expansion population and making sure that people are working as part of receiving this care.
Chris, if I could just say something, and look,
go ahead.
I agree. Mike helped kill more extreme versions where they wanted to cut even more, and I'm glad he killed the most extreme versions. But if you read Josh Hawley's op-ed that came out criticizing the House Republican budget, it says this is the largest cut in the Medicaid program. And the one thing he didn't talk about is they're going to cut $600 billion by freezing the provider tax. Basically, the states charge a tax to hospitals that then the federal government reimburses them for. It's $600 billion. They're not going to have that money, and they should just be honest about
that's
it.
Like $600 billion.
That's CBO, the Congressional Budget Office.
No, look,
the Congressional Budget Office said that. Josh Hawley said that, and this is going to. If you read Hawley's op-ed, I didn't interrupt you. If you read Hawley's op-ed, he says it's going to close rural hospitals. It's going to lead to less services in physical therapy and mental health. He talked about a mom whose daughter relies on feeding tubes, and he said it's going to be a calamity for that family. And I hope every conservative, unless you don't think Josh Hawley's conservative, Josh Hawley's honest. He's telling you what the cuts are going to be.
Well, he did say, Mike, that he doesn't think the president's going to sign this because of these kinds of moves. Go ahead. I'll give you the last word.
No, and we have continually been working through all of these issues. The bill is not final. I and others continue to have discussions with leadership with respect to some of the concerns around Medicaid. The provider tax, one of the changes that was talked about was changing it from 6% to 5%. I and others blocked that from happening. But putting a moratorium in place on a new provider taxes, the provider tax is a revenue enhancement for these states to get more money to pay towards Medicaid. That is what they've been doing for over 40 years, using a provider tax. New York and California, for instance, under the Biden administration, added an MCO tax, which was a new way to generate more revenue. These are some of the things that we're working through. I and others have been pushing back to make sure that people are not losing their benefits, but that doesn't mean that there aren't serious reforms that have to be made.
Yeah, I hear you.
Especially when you're talking about, as I did, the fact that $1.2 billion is spent in New York on illegal
Listen, I'm with you.
immigrants.
I just wish that instead of talking about Medicaid, we were talking about the Department of Defense. I wish you guys would go through it and see what is as necessary.
The Department of Defense needs a complete overhaul.
I know, but why not start there?
No question.
Why not start there? It's so much less vital.
By the way, that's what the Department of Government Efficiency is going through. That I definitely believe during.
I just don't know why it wasn't first. That's all I'm saying.
Fiscal year 26, there will be a big.
But they've increased. I said to Elon, cut defense. They've added $150 billion to defense. First time it's over $1 trillion on the defense budget.
There are immediate issues that need to be dealt with in the Defense Department, which was allowed to dither under Joe Biden. You have to be able to have a strong national defense over the long haul this year and through the appropriations process and rescissions. We will be able to make significant reforms.
I'm with
and
you.
Cuts
I'm
to make
with
sure
you.
that
I'm
the
just
money
saying they
is
haven't
being
even
spent
recommended.
appropriately.
Mike, all I'm saying is nothing's gotten lighter treatment from DOJ than the DOD, and they're the only ones that fails every time anybody does an accounting of the place. And I get that we need a strong defense. I've been with the fighting men and women. They've kept me alive in theater. I know what they do. But the idea that, we're in some crisis point with our spending on defense is a little hard to take. But I appreciate your arguments. Ro, I appreciate yours as well. Mike Lawler from New York, Ro Khanna from California. I love you having this conversation for my audience together. God bless you both. To be continued.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Look at him. Look at him. So nice, like a painting. 4 minutes and 35 seconds. Coming up, Trump's trip to the Middle East seems to be a success. They love Trump there. He negotiated a big deal between Qatar and Boeing. That's a good idea. That's a big revenue generator, if it goes through, but still, it's good news. He says he's going to get $1 trillion in investments for America. So why are conservatives giving him heat about this? Trump's former chief of staff will explain that, but also give a moderate interpretation of why this could be a good thing, even though there are reasons for concern. Mick Mulvaney, fair broker, next.
From Boeing, it's the largest order of jets in the history of Boeing. That's pretty good. And that's 140. Was that a 140 or 160? Actually 200, including the 40, so it's over $200 billion. But 160 in terms of the jets, that's fantastic.
The president negotiated a $96 billion deal with Qatar to buy airplanes from Boeing. Could create tens of thousands of jobs, hopefully, here in America. The largest order in the company's history, by the way. Of course, they're also not great at delivering on their orders. They haven't delivered the 2 airplanes that were supposed to be for the president, which is why this Qatar gift became relevant. Trump also claims he's going to secure $1 trillion in investments for America from the region, but conservatives aren't happy about it. They don't like these relationships. They don't like him doing business with these guys. Why? Former Trump chief of staff Mick Mulvaney joins me now. It's good to see you, sir.
Chris, it's always good to see you.
So let's talk a little first. Put on your former representative hat for a second. How do you understand the situation of Congress being able to trade stocks? What's the problem? What's the fix?
Yeah, I was watching that just a few minutes ago, and I wanted to reach through the camera and just grab these guys by the throat and say, look, I've been on both sides of this. I've been in Congress, and I know what the rules are there. But then when I went over to the administration in 2017, I found out the rules were different down the street. I was not allowed, when I was in the executive branch at the Office of Management Budget, to own individual equities. In fact, I wasn't even allowed to own industry-specific ETFs. I could own broadly held mutual funds, and that was about it. What does that tell you? That tells you that Congress passed a law that says that the executive branch has to do something, and they don't apply the same law to themselves. I didn't know that till I got down the street. So yeah, it's really frustrating to hear these guys say, well, we have to do this to make a living. I don't think we pay congressmen enough. We could talk about that all day if you want to. They haven't had a raise since 2009. That's not right. But to come out and say, well, since we haven't got a raise, we need to be able to trade stocks to supplement our income, that looks terrible. Look, Chris, we both know insider trading is illegal. Keep in mind, 99% of the information that Congress gets is public. Only the guys and the gals on the Intel committee get the really, really sensitive stuff that's not public. So this is not illegal, but it is something that looks wrong, and they should stop. And they thought it was wrong, which is why they decided to make the executive branch follow those laws and not allowing them to trade equity. So I pull my hair out of this and don't know why they don't change it.
Why are conservatives not happy that the president is cashing in on the Middle East?
Same answer. The appearance of impropriety. Is it illegal? Probably not. You get an opinion from the DOJ saying it's not. I respect that. I think Pam Bondi's a good lawyer, but it looks wrong. And the next time something happens and somebody thinks that maybe Qatar gets a better deal than they otherwise would have, then you got to ask the question, is because they gave him the plane. It just looks wrong, and he doesn't need it. Here's the thing, Chris. We've had 2 airplanes that fly since 2018, 747-8s. They're the exact same plane that the Qataris just gave to the president, or trying to give to the president. You don't just paint any old plane blue and call it Air Force One. You have to break it down, change the technology, change the communications, change all the defensive stuff that you put in there, all the avionics, and that's what makes it Air Force One. I don't know why Trump thinks that this new plane from the Qataris is going to be there any faster than the two we've had since 2018. So it doesn't even solve the problem. Not sure why he's doing it, other than they offered it and he couldn't turn it down because it was effectively, as he said, them giving him a 4-foot putt, and he'd be stupid not to take it.
What's the difference between getting $1 trillion from Saudi Arabia and $1 trillion from Germany?
Nothing. I don't like any of it. I like it when they buy American stuff, and I think the president's done a great job on that. That's what presidents should do. They should be out promoting American goods. I got absolutely no difficulty with that. But you can't take gifts from foreign nations, even if it goes to your library or to your Air Force. It raises the question as to, look, there's a reason conservatives are upset. When's the last time you saw the far right wing complain about something Donald Trump has done? Never. That's how outrageous this is. When the lower loomers of the world are saying, look, this is wrong, then you know you got something that really, really doesn't pass the smell test, and you need to be thinking twice about doing it.
I don't hear about the plane. I hear about the plane, of course. But I also hear that, Saudi Arabia is the head of the snake. They export Wahhabism. 9/11, almost all the guys were Saudi. They're not somebody that will ever be your friend. We know that MBS didn't have nothing to do with what happened to Khashoggi getting all chopped up. Not a guy to make a friend. Fair criticism?
Look, probably a fair criticism, but I don't think it's the end of the discussion. I'm all for building better relationships around the world. I'm not for holding everything against every country they've done since the beginning of time. I get that. These folks are not completely guiltless in the past. I understand that. I have no difficulty with reaching out to them and say, look, let's do better going forward. How could we work together to make the Middle East a better place? How can we work forward together to make sure Iran doesn't get a nuclear weapon? How can we work forward together to make sure that prosperity is spread throughout the Middle East? Maybe even individual liberties and so forth might be spread, religious liberties. Those are the right conversations for a president to have. I don't fault him for doing any of that. It's the taking of the money, I think, that raises so many red flags that people say, why do you don't need to do this. Why are you doing it?
I felt like that about Kushner raising money for the fund. I felt like Trump shouldn't have let him do that. But you said the key word there, and I'll let you go on that point, that Iran is really why it's okay to be doing deals with Qatar and Saudi Arabia, because they know Iran wants to come after both of them. So as long as that is the playing field, that is the mutual enemy, maybe you get somewhere better. Mick, this was a huge boon to the audience. Thank you for the insight on two topics that matter so much. Appreciate you.
Thanks, Chris. Have a good night.
All right, you too, bud. 4 minutes and 30 seconds coming up. Another big day in the Sean Diddy Combs trial. Got a lot of buzz from Suge Knight saying so casually that Diddy will be okay because they're going to tamper with the jury or he's going to get pardoned by Trump. I don't know. Wasn't looking like either of those things today. The prosecution continued with Cassie's ex-girlfriend to prove that the freak-offs were non-consensual. Now, to make their case, the jury was shown a lot more of the beat-down surveillance video. Did it work, or is there an opening for the defense? New video, same great legal minds. Next. So here's why Cassie Ventura matters to the prosecution in the Sean Diddy Combs trial. Was she a willing participant in the freak-offs? If the answer is yes, the case falls away. If the answer is no, then that is what informs the trafficking charge, okay? So Cassie was back on the stand. The prosecution is trying to prove that there was no consent, okay? Cassie continued to describe in detail the assaults that she endured at the hands of Combs. Why is that important? Well, one, it's not a good look for Combs, but two, because if she was afraid, that informs her ability to consent, okay? She says she was raped by him in 2018, claimed Combs even blackmailed her, threatening to release some of the freak-off videos. The jury was once again shown more of that surveillance video that we've all seen. And that the point was that Cassie endured even more than what you had previously seen. We learned that after she left, Diddy repeatedly texted Cassie, "Call me. Yo, please call me. I got 6 kids. The cops are here. You're going to abandon me all alone." Cassie responded, "I have a black eye and a fat lip. You're sick for thinking it's okay to do what you've done. Please stay far away from me." Tomorrow, the defense is expected to begin the cross. Where's the space for them and what was established today? Let's bring back Misty Maris and Sarah Azari, both of them expert attorneys who are very familiar with the case. On the prosecution side, Misty Maris, did the prosecution chop some wood today?
Yeah, Chris, if yesterday was about laying out the freak-offs, today was about talking the violence. What did the jury hear and see? Pictures of a bloody gash on her forehead, bruises, a black eye, a fat lip. They also heard a story about how he stomped her head for 10 minutes in an SUV. She wanted to go home and see her mother. He wouldn't let her. And they closed the loop on the issue of force, fraud, and coercion. She said, "I knew what he was capable of. I knew he had guns. I was afraid to leave. I was afraid because I knew what he would do." And so once you see this pattern of violence made all the more believable by the existence of that video, I think the prosecution laid their foundation to establish that critical element.
I have to say a couple of things. One, Sarah Azari is a huge victims' rights advocate in her own work. To see her impassive look on her face because she knows she has to represent the defense side of this is a real professional treat to watch her pretend like she doesn't care about any of this testimony because she's representing the defense side. And the only reason I wasn't laughing during it was I was thinking, she put those dogs in my office again? So, Sarah, where is the space for the defense if the jury is feeling the narrative that this guy did bad things to her, he threatened bad things, and she knew she couldn't say no?
Well, look, Chris, this is not a domestic violence case, right? This is a sex trafficking RICO case. And to the extent that consent matters, it's because it, for those sex trafficking. But here's the deal. Even the most powerful accuser, the most powerful witness, can unravel on cross-examination. She was extremely powerful in her testimony. She was very secure in her testimony. But the defense needs to now shift from just focusing on consent to autonomy and independence, right? Because consent against the backdrop of violence and intimidation, I mean, who cares, right? So there needs to be a shift, and that may be why the defense mentioned today that they need to rethink their strategy. But I also want to say there is space here. The defense can come in on that money grab issue that, she brought out in her testimony. She was very good about admitting cheating and having to burn her phone and why she did that. She was very good about saying, I wrote this book and then I offered to sell the rights for $30 million because I wanted him to know what he had done was bad. There was a little undertone of revenge there. And I think the defense needs to come in and say, wait a second. So then you sued him after that got rejected and you settled for $20 million. Is this really about the shame now about what you had done consensually out of your own choice back then? Or was this really a cathartic healing experience writing this book? The defense has a lot of space. There's text messages. There's witnesses. She's named a lot of people that I think might come in as witnesses to impeach her.
The pictures of the freak-off that were shown in there, what do they do for the jury? Is that what it is? Is it just clutching your pearls?
Well,
is that why they work?
I think it's more than that. Of course, we don't see them, Chris, so we can't really understand what the jury saw, and that's because they're so explicit and they're so sensitive. What we do know is that it was reported that at least 2 jurors had visceral reactions to seeing those photos. But the shock value, I've always said if the prosecution was going to lose this case, they lose sight of the legal elements and they focus on shock value and pearl clutching. But why those photos are so incredibly important, it lays out the cast of characters. Cassie just named all of the escorts that were in each one of those photos, just like, oh, that's this guy, that's this guy. And the jury is understanding the link between the freak-offs and the violence, which is the critical element for the prosecution, and that's why they're being used in that way.
And I also think it's just corroboration of her testimony. There was also photos of bruising, which she testified to, and that violence that caused the bruising. So she's corroborated on direct, but let's see what happens on cross.
I got to tell you, the photos, I would bet that Dusty would run through all kinds of fire to get those photos and show them. I think it's just a sign of my age. I don't even want to see them. I really don't. I don't even want to see them. I hope they're instructive for the case, but I know people are just dying for more access to the freak-offs. I'm not feeling it. I'm just not. I'm following this case because I wasn't blown away by the indictment. I really didn't like what I saw with the FBI going into his house and how they made such a pageant out of it. And I want to see if they can put meat on the bones. Misty and Sarah, you guys are perfect for this. Thank you very much for helping the audience understand where we are. This is not a simple case. Thank you very much. 4 minutes and 15 seconds. Coming up, you know what's simple? Ice cream. I love it. Especially Ben & Jerry's. That's why they're a household name. But they're also very political. And one of the co-founders, Ben Cohen, Ben of Ben and Jerry, along with other protesters, was removed by Capitol Police during Bobby Kennedy's Senate hearing. Why did he have to be removed? What did the man who knows sweet find so sour? Ben joins us next. Great googly moogly. I've eaten a lot of Ben & Jerry's ice cream in my life, but I got to tell you, one of the reasons I was always drawn to the company is that I respect people who use their business platform for political advocacy. I do. It's risky, and I respect it, and I've always respected Ben Cohen for what he does. Whether I agree with his politics or not is irrelevant. Today, he was among the roughly half dozen people that Capitol Police yanked out of the Senate hearing where HHS Secretary Bobby Kennedy Jr. was testifying. They were chanting, RFK kills people with hate, and Congress pays for bombs to kill kids in Gaza. His ice cream company is known for supporting liberal causes and candidates. Ben Cohen joins us now to discuss what happened and why. Thank you for taking the opportunity, sir.
How you doing, Chris?
Well, there's about two and a half inches of my midsection that belong to your company. I want you to know that.
Well, I'm honored, and you wear it well.
I want to talk politics. What is it about Bobby Kennedy that you believe is worth getting arrested for?
It didn't really have anything to do with Bobby Kennedy. What it had to do with is that Congress has been cutting money for Medicaid, the health care for poor kids, and they're using the money they save doing that to bomb other poor kids in Gaza. And now, there's this, they're halting all the food aid that's going in, so they're starving the people of Gaza.
So, all right, let's talk Israel. Yes, I understand what you're talking about with Medicaid. We'll see what they do. It does seem that the Republicans are a little unusually cautious about the pain that they will feel if they mess with Medicaid, especially when they're adding to the defense budget. But Israel, yes, what's happening in Gaza is horrible. They just agreed to restart the aid, and I've been critical of the stopping of aid and how necessary it is. But don't you have to give some space for the fact that Hamas, a terror organization, is still holding 6 people just about, and that they need to give them back if they want to have high ground, don't they?
Yes, the hostages need to be returned, but that's no justification to kill tens of thousands of children, old people, mothers, fathers, people just like us.
Well, just like us, some, yes. Others are aligned with a terror organization. I'm not talking about the kids. I'm talking about the people who are on the ground, who are adults in Gaza. And if it were America and they had 59 of our people and they were a terror organization, do you think the United States would be doing anything different than Israel is?
Boy, I would hope they'd be doing something different, because what's going on in Israel right now is genocide with our bombs. The American people have become complicit in the genocide that Israel is engaging in. And if it weren't for us providing the bombs, they wouldn't be able to do it.
Well, they have a lot of their own weapons. You know that, Ben. I know you're very sophisticated about this stuff. But don't you believe that genocide, obviously there's a legal standard, but do you target things? Do you avoid things? Do you pace things? Do you allow any aid the way Israel has if it's really a genocide? We've seen what that looks like in other situations. It doesn't look like this.
Boy, it sure looks like it to me. I mean, let me think. All the hospitals have been destroyed. All the universities have been destroyed. The schools have been destroyed. The housing has been destroyed. And tens of thousands of people have been killed. And you can't tell me that they're all members of Hamas. I don't believe that.
No, I'm not telling you that. I'm not telling you that because it's not true. And there's been a ton of death of innocents on the ground. And it is horrible. I don't have an answer. I know that asking Israel to stop unilaterally when there's a terror organization committed to their annihilation that's holding 50-something of their people is an unreasonable request. But what is better than what's happening right now? How do you secure Israel, get the people back, and not have them using their military?
I believe that you need to treat the Palestinians decently. I think they've been mistreated for, I don't know, 10, 20, 30, 40 years. And I think that a two-state solution was the right idea. And I think Israel has been kind of shutting that out. But the major thing here is about a humanitarian disaster. People are being killed. Journalists are being targeted.
Well, that I don't know.
They didn't do anything wrong.
I agree that it is a humanitarian disaster there.
Making it happen.
And there needs to be a lot more aid. Has to be a lot more aid. And I respect you raising your voice about it and using your platform. And you're always welcome here to do so. We don't have to agree for us to not be disagreeable, and you have a platform to make your argument. I appreciate you doing it, Ben.
All right. Well, thanks for having me on, Chris. Thanks for talking about it.